Let's take a look at the last page on 300 grand, which is the Master Effects section. So if I get into the Master Effects section, you can see that you have tape simulation as the first one, Master EQ, transient designer, Master Compressor, Master Limiter, and Master Reverb Send. So let's start with the tape simulation. This is a decent tape simulation. It's set here to 3 dB of warmth as soon as you turn it on. You can do high roll off up at the top here. I can pull this down. And then you can increase some. This will give lots of harshness. Grid, you can hear it. So you can hear that distortion as it goes through, but you don't need much of that at all. And so then without it, it adds a little bit of compression as well. It's like a tape simulation drive, right? So for the classical purist, you want to keep that off, but for anyone doing pop music or contemporary styles of music, this turned on gives a nice warmer sound. So next is the Master EQ. This will affect every channel. So unlike the mixer page that has its own individual channels with its own EQ that's separate for each one, this does everything. So then any sound that's coming out of here is going to be affected by the Master EQ. So then if you wanted to add a little more bass, this is already set to add a little bit more bass. Too much bass, right? Crank it down a little bit. Okay. Next, Transient Designer. Transient Designer allows you to take the beginnings or the attacks or the releases and emphasize them or not. So here's the attacks. It's at 0. This should have been set to Unity here. And I just command click them to get them back to Unity. So here, let's give it, here's the attack. And let's suck out the attack. There's without the attack. That's 100% out, right? So you could adjust if you think something's just a little bit too strong on the attack. Let's do the opposite. Let's add some attack to it. So you can hear some distortion on there because we're going a little bit too much on it, but that's exactly what it allows us to do. Next is the sustain. If I crank up the sustain, it will go. So it's kind of allowing the attack to go through, but increases in the sustain, of course. If I do the opposite, we'll get, it's like, and then you can hear it kind of fade out. The attack section might be more useful for what you're doing. Just give yourself a little bit more aggression, or if you want it to be more of a mellow pad type sound, you can pull back the attack. It's there. It's like sound design. It's available to you. Master Compressor is just like the compressor across all the individual channels here, but what it allows you to do is just to do it across everything. So if you just wanted to pump up some of the gain a little bit, let's just see our ratio and makeup gain. Mix is, so then this allows you to choose how much of the compressor is being mixed in, the attack time. We'll slow that down. Release can be auto if we want. Again, this is grabbing quite a bit of that attack, so we might want to adjust the threshold. Let's see what's happening. You can choose the output or the makeup gain, whatever you want, right? Very compressed sound. Next, limiter. Limiter does many of the things that the compressor does, but it does it in a more while keeping the dynamics. It just puts stops the high end volumes. So then you can choose the input gain and really drive this. Maybe that's a little bit too much. I'm gonna pull it down a little bit and play the wrong notes. So comparison, here's without it. It's a big volume difference. And then with it. I might have been driving that a little bit too much. Next is the master reverb send. This only works if your reverb is turned on. So on the settings page or on the mixer page, you have to turn on your reverb. And you can choose anyone that you want. I'm just going to choose, I was thinking of doing a plate here. Plate 3.4 seconds on the plate. And then on the master, anything that comes through is now being sent through that plate. And you could go overboard with it if you wanted, or turn it right off. Okay. And that's everything that's included with the master section in 300 grand.